I'll never forget the moment I came home that Thursday afternoon and found three strange men tearing apart my bedroom floorboards. Their voices cut off the second I opened the door, the sharp scent of sawdust, and something chemical hanging thick in the air. My sister Amanda's face flashed pale when she rushed in, giving me a nervous laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "They're just contractors," she said quickly, too quickly. "Checking structural things before we move into the new place. Nothing to worry about." But even then, before I knew the truth, something in my gut twisted. Because why would contractors for a new apartment rip up the boards of the one we hadn't even moved out of yet? I didn't realize it then, but that was the night the perfect image I had of my sister began to shatter, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but lies, betrayal, and the knock on the door that would change both our lives forever. I grew up believing in stability, in neat little plans. My parents, Richard and Claire, raised me to think life was like one of my dad's spreadsheets, balanced, predictable, with everything accounted for. They were the type of suburban parents who threw themed barbecues for the neighbors, who polished the silverware before hosting Thanksgiving, who believed image was almost as important as truth. And then there was Amanda. Amanda was 3 years younger than me, and where I was steady, she was wild. I got the scholarships and carefully chosen internships. She got the detentions, the boyfriends with tattoos, the late-night phone calls asking if I could pick her up from a party because she lost her ride. Despite everything, I always felt protective of her. Maybe because I was the older sister, maybe because my parents never really did. Our family dinners often felt like a stage play, each of us locked into a role. I'd talk about my latest projects at school or later my work in graphic design. Dad would nod approvingly, Mom would smile, and Amanda would roll her eyes, making some sarcastic comment about how boring it sounded. If she tried to talk about something she was passionate about, photography, a new friend group, a part-time job that wouldn't last, Dad would sigh, and Mom would change the subject. The unspoken message was clear. Christy is the responsible one. Amanda is the disappointment. I hated that dynamic. But at the same time, it made me cling tighter to Amanda, like I could shield her from the judgment hanging over her. I told myself my loyalty mattered more than the cracks I saw forming. Which is how, years later, she ended up moving into my apartment when her relationship imploded. When Amanda showed up on my doorstep that night, red eyes, mascara streaked down her face, clutching two overstuffed suitcases, my first instinct wasn't suspicion. It was compassion. She said her boyfriend, Jordan, had been cheating for months. She found the messages, confronted him, and he'd basically told her to deal with it or get out. "Please," she whispered through tears, "just for a little while." What could I do? She was my sister. My apartment was barely big enough for me, but I unfolded the couch bed, brought her water, and told her she could stay as long as she needed. Days turned into weeks. Weeks stretched toward months. I never had the heart to tell her it was time to go. Instead, I suggested we get a bigger place together when my lease ran out. She lit up at the idea, scrolling through listings late into the night, showing me apartments in neighborhoods I couldn't afford. "We can manage," she insisted, brushing off my concerns. "I've got savings, and Jordan gave me a settlement when I left." Her story wobbled, but I didn't push, because protecting Amanda had become second nature. The new apartment was beautiful, 2 bedrooms, in-unit laundry, even a small balcony where you could see the Space Needle glinting at sunset. It wasn't luxury, but it was ours. At least I thought it was. That's when Amanda began acting strange. She was always on the phone, whispering in the bathroom with the shower running or stepping out onto the fire escape. When I asked who it was, she shrugged. "Friends." Sometimes I'd catch her scrolling through jewelry websites late at night, lingering on pieces that cost more than either of us could realistically afford. When I teased her about window shopping, she laughed it off, but her eyes didn't match the laugh. Still, I told myself it was part of her healing, a phase. After all, heartbreak makes us all act strange. But then came the day I returned from Portland earlier than expected. The client had canceled my big presentation. I was crushed, but also free earlier than planned. I thought I'd surprise Amanda, maybe take the chance to start packing. I brought home Thai food from our favorite spot. The second I opened the door, I felt it. The silence, the sudden halt in conversation, the way the air seemed heavier. And then I saw them. Three men in dusty work clothes that looked more costume than uniform, one kneeling by my closet, another fiddling with the dresser drawers. The third crouched near the floorboards, some kind of scanning device in his hands. My bedroom was chaos, clothes spilled out, drawers yanked open, floor pried up. Amanda's face when she burst in and saw me, that's an image burned into my memory. "Christy, you're home early. Who are these people? What are they doing in my bedroom?" She launched into her explanation about renovations, about contractors, about a landlord offering us a deal. Her voice was too high, too fast. The men didn't look like contractors. No tool belts, no paperwork, just expensive cologne and eyes that avoided mine. Something in me hardened. "Show me the paperwork," I demanded. Amanda's smile faltered. "It's all electronic, I'll forward it to you." The men left quickly after that, barely looking at me. Amanda ushered me out to dinner, desperate to change the subject, asking questions about Portland like she was taking notes for someone else. That night, lying awake, I replayed everything in my head. The ransacked bedroom, the evasive answers, the fake company name she'd dropped. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if my sister wasn't just being secretive, but hiding something dangerous. The truth slammed into me the next morning, with a pounding knock that rattled our apartment walls. "Police officers." "With a search warrant." When the police stood in my doorway that morning, holding a search warrant with Amanda's name on it, my world tilted on its axis. But to really understand how we got there, why I opened the door with trembling hands, why my first instinct was still to shield my sister instead of shutting her out, you'd have to go back years. Back to Fairfield, Connecticut. Back to the picture-perfect suburban stage where my family played their roles with practiced smiles and carefully curated reputations. Our house was the kind of place that made people slow their cars on evening walks. White picket fence, manicured lawn, hydrangeas blooming in impossible blue each June. From the outside we were flawless. Dad was the kind of man who wore pressed shirts even on weekends, who mowed the lawn in precise, parallel lines. Mom made everything look effortless, matching curtains, seasonal wreaths, even napkin rings shaped like snowflakes at Christmas. To the world, we were the Walkers. Polished, respectable, the kind of family that hosted neighborhood potlucks where everything gleamed, right down to the lemon wedges floating in the punch bowl. But inside that house, the cracks were always there. You just had to look past the shine. I was the golden child. Not because I was extraordinary, but because I made life easy. I color-coded my homework binders, brought home report cards filled with A's, and remembered to say thank you to relatives at Thanksgiving. Amanda was different. She had a restless spark in her that rules couldn't contain. If I was a neat row of dominoes, Amanda was the wild marble rolling across the table, knocking things over, making noise, demanding to be seen. I'll never forget the summer she was 12. Dad had just finished staining the deck for the second time in as many years. He took pride in things like perfect cedar planks. Amanda decided to use the freshly dried boards as her personal art project, painting a sprawling mural in chalk pastels. A phoenix, she called it. Dad saw red. "You've ruined it," he shouted, scrubbing at the boards while Amanda stood with her chin raised, tears burning her eyes. "It's chalk, Dad," she said. "It'll wash away." But that wasn't the point. To him, her creativity was recklessness. To Mom, it was embarrassment. To me, it was Amanda being Amanda. I slipped outside later with a bucket of water and helped her wash it away. "You should have seen his face," she muttered, half smiling through her anger. "Like I burned the whole house down." "You were just trying to make something beautiful," I told her. She looked at me for a long time, like she was trying to decide whether to trust me. Then she said, "You're the only one who ever gets me." And maybe that's why, even years later, when everything screamed at me not to trust her, I still wanted to believe I could save her. The favoritism wasn't subtle. When I aced my SATs, Dad took me out for steak. When Amanda failed algebra, Mom sighed dramatically and told me I'd have to tutor her. When I got into a design program in New York, Dad told the neighbors. When Amanda skipped school to go to a concert, she was grounded for a month. It wasn't that they didn't love her, they just didn't know what to do with her. She wasn't the daughter who fit neatly into their mold. So she became the rebel. By high school, Amanda was sneaking out of the house, eyeliner smudged, music blasting from her headphones. I'd cover for her, telling Mom she was studying at the library. Sometimes I'd stay up until she came home, smelling of cigarettes and cheap perfume, her eyes glittering with defiance. "You're going to get caught," I'd whisper. "Not if you keep covering for me," she'd grin, tossing her shoes in the corner. And I always did, because even when she scared me, I loved her. The enabling didn't stop after high school. When Amanda flunked out of community college, I let her crash on my dorm couch in New York for a few weeks. When she bounced between jobs, waitressing, retail, temp agencies, I sent her money just until payday. When she dated guys I couldn't stand, I bit my tongue. And then came Jordan. Jordan with his slicked back hair, expensive watch, and the kind of charm that feels like a performance. Amanda fell hard and fast. 6 months later, they were living in a luxury apartment I knew neither of them could afford. "They've got family money," Amanda insisted when I questioned it. "Stop being jealous." Jealous, no, concerned, always. But when she smiled at me, eyes bright and insistent, I let it go. It wasn't until much later, standing in my torn-apart bedroom with those strange men, pretending to be contractors, that the puzzle pieces began to click together. The late-night calls. The cash deposits. The jewelry websites she scrolled like they were grocery catalogs. I should have seen it sooner. But hindsight is cruel like that. Our parents had moved to Florida by then, leaving me and Amanda to navigate Seattle on our own. I carried their expectations like a weight on my shoulders. Amanda carried their disapproval like a fire she couldn't put out. When she moved in with me after the so-called breakup with Jordan, I told myself it was my turn to step up, to be the sister she needed. I didn't realize then that I wasn't shielding her from trouble. I was sheltering her inside it. The first real warning came 2 weeks before the move. I'd walked into the living room after work and found Amanda on the floor surrounded by shopping bags, designer clothes, heels, and a leather jacket I knew cost more than my entire month's rent. "Where did you get all this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She didn't even look guilty. "I told you, settlement money, stop worrying." But worry was all I could do. That night, lying awake, I stared at the ceiling and thought, what if I don't really know my sister at all? It was the first time I admitted the thought out loud, even just in my head. But I still wasn't ready to face it. Not until the police came knocking. The night after I found those so-called contractors in my bedroom, sleep barely touched me. I lay awake, every creak of the apartment setting my nerves on edge, the faint smell of sawdust still clinging to the air like an accusation. Amanda had closed herself in her room, claiming a headache, and I was left packing the living room, my mind racing. Why my bedroom? Why not the kitchen or the living room or any other space? Why did they have scanning devices instead of hammers and drills? Why did Amanda panic when she saw me? By midnight, I couldn't stand it anymore. I went back into my room, the floorboards still uneven, my closet half emptied. As I sifted through the mess, I noticed tiny details out of place. My laptop closed when I'd left it open, a photo frame tilted slightly, my jewelry box moved just an inch to the left. They hadn't been measuring. They'd been searching. But searching for what? I decided to do something I'd never done before. I searched Amanda's purse. It sat by the door, her favorite leather tote, worn but sturdy. I hesitated, my stomach tight with guilt, but the memory of those men tearing apart my room pushed me forward. Inside, I found the usual lip gloss, gum wrappers, receipts, but tucked in the side pocket was a key that didn't look like it belonged to any apartment or car. Sleek metallic with a code etched into it, and alongside it a card, Secure Storage Solutions, an address across town. A storage unit, one Amanda had never mentioned. My pulse hammered. What was she keeping there that she couldn't store in our apartment? The next morning, I tried to act normal. I brewed coffee, scrambled eggs. Amanda shuffled out of her room, yawning like nothing had happened. "Sleep okay?" I asked casually. "Not really, still have that headache." She avoided my eyes, reaching for the coffee pot. I watched her pour, steady hands betraying none of the chaos swirling in mine. "Amanda," I said carefully, "those men last night, what were they really doing here?" She froze for a fraction of a second, then forced a laugh. "I told you, contractors, you're always so paranoid." "Paranoid?" I pressed. "They ripped up my floor, they went through my closet, that's not normal." "They were checking structural points. The landlord wants the new place to match our preferences." I narrowed my eyes. What landlord sends workers to our current apartment for that? Amanda's smile faltered. "Why can't you just trust me, Christy? For once in your life, just trust me." But her eyes betrayed her, flicking toward her phone, toward her purse, toward the secrets I wasn't supposed to see. Later that afternoon, I met my friend Daniela for coffee. She was a real estate agent, someone who understood how leases and renovations worked. "Is it normal," I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, "for landlords to send contractors to a tenant's current apartment before a move, even ripping up floors?" Daniela's brows shot up. "Absolutely not. That would require permission, paperwork, usually the property manager present, and never invasive work like that. Christy, what's going on?" I told her everything, well, almost everything. I didn't mention the key yet. Her frown deepened. "This doesn't add up, be careful, your sister may be hiding something." Her words echoed the fear already growing inside me. That night, Amanda cooked dinner like nothing was wrong. Pasta, garlic bread, salad, the works. The smell of butter and garlic filled the apartment, but instead of comforting me, it made my stomach turn. Halfway through the meal, I set down my fork. "I looked up Seattle Home Improvements," I said. "The company you mentioned yesterday, it doesn't exist." Her fork clattered against her plate. "What?" "There's no company with that name. Not online, not in any business directory, nothing." Amanda forced a smile, but it was thin, brittle. "Maybe you spelled it wrong." I tried every variation. "Amanda, what's going on?" Her eyes hardened, the mask slipping. "Why do you always have to dig? Why can't you just let me handle things?" "Because you're lying to me." The words exploded out before I could stop them. "You bring strangers into my room, you spin some story about renovations, and I'm just supposed to smile and nod. What are you hiding?" The silence between us was thick, broken only by the hum of the fridge. Finally, Amanda stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "You'll see. When it's all done, you'll understand. Just trust me." She grabbed her phone and disappeared into her room, leaving me staring at the untouched plate of pasta, the garlic smell suffocating in the air. That night, I texted Daniela. "Something's really wrong. If you don't hear from me tomorrow, call me." She responded immediately. "Do you want me to come over?" I typed back. "Not yet, just be on standby." My finger hovered over the send button, my chest tight. Finally, I hit send. And for the first time, I wondered, what if Amanda wasn't just lying? What if she was in danger? Or worse, what if she was the danger? The next morning, the pounding on our door jolted me out of restless sleep. Authoritative, relentless, not the knock of a neighbor. Amanda's voice called from the hallway, shrill and panicked. "Christy, wake up." I stumbled into the hall, hair tangled, heart racing. Amanda stood frozen, her face pale, eyes wide. "There are police officers at the door," she whispered. Another round of knocks shook the walls. I looked through the peephole. Two uniformed officers stood there, one holding a folded document in his hand. When I opened the door, the older one, salt and pepper hair and a hard jawline, spoke firmly. "Seattle Police Department, I'm Officer Ramirez. This is Officer Chen. We have a search warrant for this apartment." My throat went dry. A search warrant for what? "Are you Christy Morgan?" "Yes." "And is Amanda Morgan present?" I glanced back at my sister. She looked like she might faint. She's here. We need to speak with both of you. May we come in? As the officers stepped inside, Amanda spun on me, her face twisted with fury. What did you do? She hissed. Did you call them? How could you? Her voice cracked, raw, trembling. I didn't call anyone, I shot back, panic rising in my chest. I don't even know what this is about. But even as I said it, dread coiled in my stomach. Because deep down, I already knew this was about her. And whatever she was hiding, it was about to come crashing out into the open. The moment those officers stepped inside, it felt like the air was sucked out of the apartment. Every sound became amplified. The rustle of the warrant paper, Amanda's ragged breathing, the faint buzz of the refrigerator. Miss Morgan, Officer Ramirez said, his eyes scanning the living room. We have a warrant to search this apartment in connection with a series of burglaries in the Capitol Hill and Queen Anne neighborhoods. Please remain seated while we conduct the search. Burglaries, the word scraped out of my throat like gravel. Amanda's face went sheet white. She stumbled back a step, clutching the arm of the couch like it might anchor her to the floor. This is ridiculous, she stammered, her voice trembling. You've got the wrong people. Ma'am, we're following evidence, Officer Chen said, her tone more measured, almost gentle. Please cooperate, and this will go much smoother. Amanda's eyes darted toward her bedroom. My stomach sank. The officers split up. Chen headed straight for Amanda's room while Ramirez stayed with us, pulling a small notebook from his pocket. How long have you both lived here? He asked. 6 weeks, I answered automatically, my voice hoarse. And what do you know about your sister's activities during this time? I hesitated, glancing at Amanda. She shook her head, almost imperceptibly, like a silent plea. She moved in with me after breaking up with her boyfriend, I said carefully. I've been at work most days. I don't really know what she does when I'm gone. Amanda's eyes flashed with something sharp: fear, anger, betrayal. Before Ramirez could ask more, Officer Chen's voice cut through the apartment. Ramirez, you need to see this. We followed him down the hall. Chen stood in Amanda's doorway, holding a small lockbox she'd pulled from the closet. She placed it on the bed and flipped the latch. Inside was a collection of jewelry and watches that gleamed under the light. Delicate chains, diamond studs, gold bands, pieces that screamed money. My chest tightened. These items matched descriptions from several recent burglaries, Chen said. Amanda lurched forward. That's not mine, I was holding them for a friend. Ramirez's gaze hardened. A friend's name, please. Amanda's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Something inside me cracked then. I remembered the contractors, rifling through my closet, the strange scanning devices, Amanda's evasive answers. All the puzzle pieces I'd been ignoring slammed together in one ugly picture. She wasn't just hiding something. She was part of it. I stumbled back, gripping the doorframe to steady myself. Amanda, I whispered, what did you do? She spun on me, eyes wild. This is your fault, you couldn't just leave it alone, could you? Always digging, always suspicious. You don't understand, I was doing this for us. For us, my voice broke, disbelief washing over me. You hid stolen goods in my home. You lied to me. You made me a part of this without even asking. Her face contorted, tears brimming. You've always had it easy, Christy. The good grades, the good job, the approval. I had to make my own way. I wasn't going to scrape by forever. This isn't making your way, I shouted. It's crime. The officers exchanged a glance, then Ramirez stepped forward. Amanda Morgan, please stand. You are under arrest. Time slowed as he pulled out the handcuffs. Amanda's bravado crumbled. She shook her head violently, backing away. No, please, you don't understand. I was going to stop, I was just holding it. Christy, tell them. Her voice broke into a sob as Ramirez gently, but firmly grabbed her wrists and clicked the cuffs into place. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. The words blurred in my ears. My sister's cries drowned everything else out. You're supposed to have my back, she screamed at me, her voice raw, desperate. Family comes first, always. How could you let them do this to me? I couldn't even speak. I just stood frozen as they led her toward the door, her eyes burning into me with equal parts fury and heartbreak. You've ruined everything, she spat. Everything. And then the door closed behind her, leaving me in a silence so heavy it felt like it might crush me. I thought that was the end of it. But the real devastation came later, at the police station. They didn't handcuff me, but they did ask me to come down for questioning. Sitting in that sterile interview room, the walls buzzing faintly with fluorescent lights, I felt like the floor had fallen away. Detective Marshall entered, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a calm demeanor. He set a thick folder on the table and slid into the chair across from me. Miss Morgan, he began, his tone steady, I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to hear me out. I nodded numbly. He opened the folder and spread out photographs, grainy stills from security cameras. Each one showed Amanda, sometimes alone, sometimes with a man I recognized immediately. Jordan. Her ex. The one she'd sworn had broken her heart. Your sister and Jordan Reeves have been under investigation for the last 3 years, Marshall said. They've been part of a burglary ring targeting high-end apartments in Seattle. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. No, I whispered. She said they broke up, she left him. Marshall shook his head. That was a cover story. 2 weeks ago, Jordan was arrested on a DUI. Stolen property was found in his car. He's been cooperating with us since then. The breakup, her moving in with you, it was all staged. They needed a new base of operations. Your apartment provided that. My vision swam, my ears rang. She used me. I'm afraid so. He slid another photograph across the table. A storage unit, crammed with electronics, handbags, artwork, boxes stacked high. This was recovered this morning from a unit under your sister's name. The key was found in her possession during booking. My hand trembled. I recognized the storage company logo, the same card I'd found in Amanda's purse. Marshall's voice softened. We don't believe you were involved, but we do need your full cooperation. Anything you can share, phone calls, visitors, unusual behavior, it could help us dismantle the rest of this operation. I told him everything. The strange men, the ripped-up floorboards, the jewelry websites, the unexplained cash. Each word felt like another betrayal, another knife twist in my chest. But when I finished, he gave me a small nod. You did the right thing. I wanted to believe him, but all I felt was hollow. When they finally released me, I stepped outside into the sharp brightness of morning. The city carried on as if nothing had changed, cars honking, people walking dogs, the smell of coffee drifting from a nearby cafe. But for me, nothing would ever be the same again. My sister wasn't who I thought she was. My home wasn't safe. And the police knock on the door was only the beginning of the nightmare. The adrenaline that had kept me upright during the search and interrogation evaporated the second I left the police station. My body, so tense it felt like piano wire, finally gave out. I didn't faint exactly, but the world swayed sideways. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed with a dull headache, the scent of antiseptic and bleach burning my nose. A nurse with kind eyes adjusted my IV drip. You collapsed in the parking lot, she explained gently. Looks like exhaustion and stress. We're keeping you for observation. Doctor will want to run a few scans to be safe. My mouth was dry, my voice rasped when I whispered, I'm fine. But I was. Inside, I was unraveling. Hours later, under the harsh blue glow of X-ray machines, I lay perfectly still while a technician adjusted the plates beneath me. The cold metal pressed against my back, every sound amplified, the click of the machine, the whir of the scanner, the muffled instructions. Deep breath, hold, release. My chest rose and fell mechanically, but inside, panic was boiling. I couldn't get Amanda's face out of my head, the fury when the cuffs clicked, the way she screamed that I'd ruined everything. By the time they wheeled me back to the hospital room, I felt hollowed out. Detective Marshall came to see me that evening. He looked tired too, his tie loosened, eyes shadowed. He carried another folder, thicker this time. Miss Morgan, he began, pulling a chair beside my bed. I know you've been through a lot, but we need to go over a few things while they're fresh. I swallowed hard, gripping the thin hospital blanket. I don't know how much more I can handle. He nodded, his tone softer. Just listen for now, you can choose what to answer. He opened the folder. Inside were photographs again. This time, not just jewelry, but electronics, laptops, tablets, cameras, even framed artwork, each item tagged with evidence numbers. These were recovered from your sister's storage unit this morning, he explained. We're cataloging them against police reports from the last 3 years. The scope is bigger than we thought. I stared at the photographs, bile rising in my throat. She really did all this. Not alone, Amanda and Jordan started small. Your sister's job at the cleaning service gave them access to apartments, floor plans, schedules, vulnerabilities. They'd target places when residents were away. But it escalated. They brought in accomplices. Those contractors you saw, likely part of the crew. I shuddered, remembering the way those men rifled through my closet, their cologne clashing with the chemical scent of dust. Marshall continued, when Jordan was arrested, Amanda panicked. That's when she staged the breakup, moved in with you. She needed a safe front, somewhere the police wouldn't think to look. She used me, I whispered, my voice breaking. She made me her cover. He didn't argue, just gave a small, grim nod. The doctor came in midway through the meeting, flipping through my chart. You've had a stress collapse, she said briskly. No fractures, no heart damage, but your cortisol levels are off the charts. You need rest, avoid stimulants, minimal stress. I almost laughed. Minimal stress. My sister was in jail for grand theft, my apartment a crime scene, my entire reality cracked open. Rest wasn't an option. When Marshall left, he handed me one last envelope. This was in the storage unit, he said carefully. We think you should see it. I opened it after he was gone. Inside was a velvet pouch. I loosened the drawstring and spilled the contents into my hand. A necklace. Not just any necklace, our grandmother's pearl pendant. The one Mom had cried over months ago, thinking she'd lost it in the move to Florida. The cool weight of the pearls pressed into my palm, like betrayal made tangible. Amanda hadn't just stolen from strangers. She stolen from us. That night in the hospital, I couldn't sleep. The rhythmic beep of machines was both comforting and maddening. Shadows stretched across the room, shapes that twisted into Amanda's face in my imagination. Her voice replayed in my head. You're supposed to have my back. Family comes first. But family doesn't rip up your floorboards to stash stolen goods. Family doesn't lie so deeply you can't tell what's real anymore. I buried my face in the pillow and cried until morning. The next day, Daniela visited. She brought flowers, her presence grounding me in a way I desperately needed. You look like hell, she said gently, sitting on the edge of the bed. I feel worse, my voice cracked. She squeezed my hand. None of this is your fault. I shook my head. I let her in. I ignored the signs. I wanted so badly to protect her that I enabled her. Daniela's eyes were fierce. Christy, stop, you gave her love, you gave her shelter. What she chose to do with it, that's on her, not you. Her words lodged somewhere deep, though I wasn't ready to believe them yet. By the time I was discharged, 3 days had passed. My apartment wasn't home anymore. It was still under investigation, evidence markers scattered across my bedroom floor like confetti from some twisted celebration. So I stayed with Daniela. Every night I woke from nightmares. Amanda screaming at me, police pounding on the door, jewelry spilling like blood across the floorboards. The doctor had given me pills for the anxiety, but they only dulled the edges. One evening, Marshall called with an update. His voice carried a mix of fatigue and gravity. We've tied Amanda and Jordan to at least 15 burglaries, he said. We're still uncovering connections. Pawn shops, fences, storage units. This wasn't petty theft, it was organized crime. 15. The number rang in my ears long after the call ended. 15 families who came home to find their lives rifled through. 15 sets of memories sold for cash. And my sister had been at the heart of it. The weight of it crushed me. So when Marshall asked me to come in again, to answer more questions, I agreed. Sitting in that same sterile interview room, I told them everything. Every strange call, every unexplained purchase, every lie that seemed harmless at the time. It felt like betraying her all over again, but it also felt like peeling off a bandage hiding a festering wound. Painful, yes. Necessary, absolutely. The final blow came when Marshall slid a small photograph across the table. It showed Amanda and Jordan together at a bar, laughing, glasses raised. The timestamp, just a week before she'd shown up on my doorstep, sobbing about his betrayal. The breakup had been nothing but theater. The sister I thought I knew had been a character all along. Walking out of the station that night, the city lights blurred through my tears. For 28 years, I thought I'd known Amanda better than anyone, but maybe I'd only known the version she allowed me to see. And now, with the evidence laid bare, I had to face a question I wasn't ready to answer. If blood doesn't define family, what does? 5 days after Amanda's arrest, I was allowed to visit her at the King County Correctional Facility. I almost didn't go. Daniela warned me it could reopen wounds that hadn't even begun to heal. But some part of me needed answers, not from detectives, not from files or photographs, but from Amanda herself. I needed to look her in the eye and ask the question burning through me: why? The visitors' area was a cold, colorless room. Rows of plastic chairs bolted to the floor, glass partitions smudged with fingerprints. Everything smelled faintly of bleach and despair. When they brought Amanda in, my breath caught. She looked smaller somehow. The orange jumpsuit sagged on her thin frame. Her usually perfect hair was scraped back, her skin pale without makeup, but her eyes, the defiant spark, still burned. She slid into the chair across from me, the glass between us a hard, undeniable barrier. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "You look terrible," she said finally, her voice flat. "So do you," I replied. A bitter smile tugged at her mouth. "Guess we both lost." I leaned forward, pressing my palms against the cool glass. "Why, Amanda? Why lie? Why drag me into this?" Her gaze flickered, then hardened. "What has Detective Marshall told you? That I'm some mastermind? That I corrupted poor Jordan into stealing jewelry and handbags?" She laughed, sharp and humorless. "They love their little narratives." "They showed me the photos," I whispered. "The storage unit, the security footage. You weren't framed, Amanda, you were leading it." Her jaw clenched. "We were just taking from people who had too much. Rich people with insurance. No one got hurt." "No one got hurt," my voice rose. "Do you know what it feels like to have strangers rip through your bedroom, your personal space, your life? Because I do. You did that to me." Her eyes faltered for a moment, just a flicker, then her voice dropped low. "I didn't want it to be like this." "Then what did you want?" "To win," she snapped, her voice cracking. "To stop feeling like the failure, to have nice things, to finally live instead of scraping by while you—" She cut herself off, eyes blazing. "You always had everything, the grades, the career, Mom and Dad's approval. I wanted my turn." I sat back stunned. "So you stole it." Silence stretched between us. Finally, she leaned forward, urgency sharpening her features. "Listen, Christy, you can help me. The police don't have everything. Some items, some dates, they can't place me. But if you say I was with you, if you just cover a few nights, they'll believe you. You've always been the reliable one." Her eyes gleamed, almost feverish. "We could split what's left. There's enough for both of us to start over somewhere new." My stomach churned. "You're asking me to commit perjury." "I'm asking you to save me." Her voice softened, almost pleading. "Family first, right? You said it yourself, we only have each other." Her words stabbed at my chest. Memories rushed in, me washing away her chalk mural to protect her from Dad's anger, sneaking her back inside after curfew, covering for her with Mom. I'd always protected her. Always chosen loyalty. But now, she wasn't asking for protection. She was asking for complicity. "No," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "I won't lie for you, not again, not ever." Her face crumpled, then hardened like stone. "So that's it. You're abandoning me. You'll let them lock me away like some criminal when you could save me." "You are a criminal, Amanda," the words tore out of me. You lied, you stole, you dragged me into it, you even took Grandma's necklace. How could you? For the first time, shame flickered in her eyes. It was just sitting in a box. Mom didn't even wear it. It wasn't about the necklace, it was about trust, and you shattered it. She slammed her palm against the glass, eyes blazing with a mix of fury and desperation. You're perfect, Christy, aren't you? Always so righteous, so honest. But where does that leave me? In here while you go back to your neat little life. Tears blurred my vision. I don't know where that leaves you, but I know where it leaves me, finally free of your lies. Her expression twisted, a mask slipping to reveal something raw, almost feral. You'll regret this, she hissed. Family should come first. I stood, heart hammering. You abandoned family long before today. And with that, I walked away, her voice echoing behind me, sharp and desperate, until the guard closed the door between us. Outside, I broke down in the parking lot. My legs gave out, and I sank against the cold concrete wall, sobs racking my chest. Daniela found me there. She had been waiting in her car, just in case. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around me, holding me as I cried. She wants me to lie for her, I choked out. To give her an alibi, she still thinks she can manipulate me. Daniela's grip tightened. That's not love, that's control, you don't owe her that. But she's my sister, I whispered, voice breaking. She's also a grown woman who made her choices, Daniela said firmly. And now you have to make yours. That night, back at Daniela's apartment, I stared at myself in the mirror. My face was pale, eyes rimmed red, shoulders hunched like I carried the weight of two lives, mine and Amanda. For years, I believed loyalty meant sacrifice. That loving my sister meant protecting her no matter what. But maybe loyalty without boundaries wasn't love at all. Maybe it was self-destruction. I thought of the necklace, the storage unit, the photos. I thought of Amanda's words, we could split what's left. And I realized something with startling clarity. I couldn't save Amanda, but I could save myself. The next morning, I called Detective Marshall. I'll testify, I said, my voice steady. Whatever you need, I'll tell the truth, no more lies. For a moment, silence hummed on the line. Then Marshall's voice came, firm but kind. That's the bravest choice you could make, Christy. I know it's not easy, but it's the right one. I hung up and let the tears come again. Not just grief this time, but release. For the first time, I wasn't covering for Amanda. I wasn't enabling. I was choosing truth. Even if it meant losing her forever. 6 months have passed since the day my sister was led away in handcuffs, her voice echoing accusations that I'd ruined everything. 6 months of picking up pieces I didn't know were shattered. 6 months of realizing that sometimes the hardest choice isn't between right and wrong, it's between truth and loyalty. Amanda took a plea deal. 3 years, with the possibility of parole after 18 months, in exchange for information about the burglary ring's bigger players. Jordan got 5 years. Apparently, his role as organizer made him less sympathetic to prosecutors. I watched the sentencing on a video stream, alone in Daniela's apartment. Amanda never looked for me in the audience. She kept her chin high, her expression defiant, like she was daring the world to judge her. When the judge read her sentence, she didn't flinch. But I did. Because in that moment, it became real. My sister, the girl I once washed chalk off the deck for, was a convicted criminal. Life after betrayal is complicated. I couldn't return to my apartment. The landlord terminated my lease once the place was cleared as a crime scene. Too much attention, too much stigma. Even though the police made it clear I wasn't involved, the neighbors whispered. So I moved into a small one-bedroom in another neighborhood. Smaller than before, quieter. No balcony with views of the Space Needle, no shiny new appliances. But it was mine. Untouched, safe. For the first time in months, I could breathe without wondering what secrets were hiding under my floorboards. Work became both refuge and challenge. As a graphic designer, I poured myself into projects with a desperation I'd never felt before. Colors, lines, and layouts became a way to process emotions I couldn't yet name. Some clients praised the intensity of my new work, raw, authentic, emotional. They had no idea it was grief translated into design. But there were days when I couldn't focus. Days when I stared at a blank screen, Amanda's voice looping in my head, family should come first. Therapy helped. My therapist, a woman named Karen with sharp eyes and a kind voice, guided me through the maze of guilt. You saw what you wanted to see, she told me. That's not weakness, Christy, that's love. Love makes us blind sometimes. Don't punish yourself for trusting your sister. But I enabled her, I argued. You enabled the sister you thought she was, Karen said softly, not the woman she became. That distinction saved me. The scar, though invisible, is still there. Sometimes when I pass a jewelry store, I catch myself flinching. Sometimes when someone knocks too hard at my door, my chest seizes with panic. And family gatherings, those are hardest of all. When I visited our parents in Florida to tell them everything, Mom cried until her face was blotchy, whispering over and over, "Where did we go wrong?" Dad, always stoic, just stared at the floor and muttered, "She made her choices." They asked me if I'd forgiven Amanda. The truth, I don't know. I visit her sometimes. Not often. She's different in jail, less polished, more raw. Sometimes she talks about taking classes, about changing. Other times she slips back into defensiveness, blaming Jordan, blaming the system, even blaming me. Last month, though, she sent me a letter. Handwritten, the words wobbly, almost hesitant. I never considered the people we stole from as real. They were just symbols of what I wanted and couldn't have. I'm starting to see now how much damage I did, not just to strangers, but to you, to Mom and Dad, to myself. I don't expect forgiveness, but I am sorry. For the first time, it didn't feel like manipulation. It felt human. Daniela has been my anchor. She reminds me that family isn't just blood, it's the people who show up when your world is falling apart. She held me in hospital parking lots, made me tea at midnight, listened without judgment when I raged at Amanda, when I wept, when I doubted myself. One night, she said something that stuck. Maybe this isn't about Amanda. Maybe it's about you finally learning to protect yourself. She's right. For years, I defined loyalty as sacrifice. I thought loving Amanda meant shielding her, even from the consequences of her choices. But now I know, true loyalty doesn't mean covering lies. It means holding loved ones accountable, even if it hurts. So where does that leave me? Healing slowly. Some days I feel strong, proud that I chose truth, that I didn't crumble under Amanda's pleas. Other days, the guilt creeps back in, whispering that I betrayed my sister. But I remind myself I didn't betray her, she betrayed me. And in that reminder, I find strength. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Listen to your gut when something feels wrong. Don't ignore the red flags just because they're attached to someone you love. And remember, family loyalty should never come at the cost of your integrity. Have you ever had to choose between protecting someone you love and telling the truth? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that set us free. And if my journey resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. I share these stories not just to unburden myself, but to remind you, betrayal doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And humans, no matter how scarred, can rebuild.